Hey guys, welcome back to some more reviews. The Explorer of Horror here, and today I wanted to do a review on two films. Because these were movies I watched back to back. One of them was a rewatch, the other was a first time watching. And it was a great double feature. They went together so well, and so I figured I would just do a double review, kind of talk about both movies. And that, of course, is the David Lynch duo of Eraserhead and The Elephant Man. Eraserhead is 1977. Elephant Man, I believe, is 1980. And so we're going to get into it. Of course, starting off with Eraserhead. Now, this was not the first time I've seen this movie. It gets 7.3 on IMDb. Like I said, it came out in 1977. This is not the first movie, or the first time I had seen this movie. I actually found a really cheap DVD. It's awful. It was a horrible DVD, because it was just, the quality wasn't the best, which I didn't really care, because it kind of added to the movie. But also, there was just absolutely just zero features. And, I don't know, it just, compared to this, I mean, this is the true way to own it, in my opinion. This is a Blu-ray from the Criterion Collection, and they did fantastic. I mean, not only does the edition look good, sound good, but it also has plenty of features. And Eraserhead, to describe this movie, it's difficult. This is one of those movies where it's what you get from it. What do you gain from it when you watch Eraserhead? A lot of people are on the same track of saying it's about a man who's dealing with his life. You know, he has a girlfriend who's pregnant, goes over to her parents' house. The mom's kind of mad at him. So you could take it at face value of, like, it's a story about a person who doesn't want to have this responsibility but does. And I guess you could say is dealing with the horror of his responsibility. Or you can go other routes with it. I mean, there's just so many layers to this movie. And I remember the last time I did a review on this movie, way back, I did like just an individual review on it. It was so difficult to talk about it because, like, yeah, I guess when you break it down, it could be basic. There's just so much to this movie, and it took years to make this movie. It took years. I think it took like 5 years, 6 years, and they would shoot stuff, run out of budget, shoot stuff, run out of budget, and they constantly were just dealing with a challenge, dealing with obstacles in their way. And David Lynch just really struggling to get this movie made. And I mean, the story, like I said, it's basically that. You got this guy named Henry, who is this dude with this really wacky looking hair, as you can see on the front cover. He works at a factory, and you're seeing these different events of his life in a very bizarre scope. And just unnatural, bizarre things happening around him. From the food he tries to eat, literally coming to life and bleeding sludge and moving around in front of him, to him talking to people and them just freezing mid-conversation, you know, and then just moving on like nothing ever happened. And you're just seeing his day-to-day life. You know, he has a girlfriend who's pregnant, and then the parents are wondering what happened, and just more and more bizarre things start unfolding. And I really do think that Eraserhead is one of my favorite movies, one of the best movies of the 70s. And I like how here on IMDb, there's not really a genre for it. You could argue it could be a horror film because of just how uncomfortable it is and how weird it is. It says here a fantasy horror. I do see that as being a very, you know, to be fair, that is a very accurate description. Fantasy, there is a lot of fantasy elements, there's a lot of metaphors, a lot of things that will just keep you thinking for a while. Like, okay, the guy cranking the levers, could that be God? Could that be fate? Could that be destiny? What do you think it is? The sort of outer space shots of the planets and just the way of the background noise sound like a factory, and like grinding metal, and just it's such an ambiance to this movie. And it really did give me chills the first time I watched this, where sitting down, I didn't know what I was going to get into. I knew nothing about this movie. The only thing I knew is that it popped up on a few horror lists. Some people were saying it was one of the, better horror films out there. And other than that, I knew nothing about this movie at all. And I remember the first opening shot, just that background noise, just the way that opens with shots of planets and zooming in on a planet, and then it opens up to a factory. And I remember I went from like, yeah, okay, let's see what this is about, to just, I was in it, and it was a wild ride. And it's really a short movie. It's an hour and 29 minutes with credits, probably an hour and 25, 26 minutes. So it's a very, very short watch. But yeah, I remember just sucked into this movie because I seen it around 2018. At the time, I had not really seen too many movies like this, where it's like there's a plot there, but there's also a lot of other stuff going on. And it's definitely not your typical movie. I mean, this isn't a film that you can just, watch, a video on your phone and talk to people and laugh and, play on your phone and texting. You'll be lost. You'll be like, what the hell is going on? Hell, even when you're focusing on the movie, you're like, what the hell is going on sometimes? And so this is definitely a movie that you've got to be sucked into. You've got to pay attention to. And I think the movie does a great job at keeping your attention. This movie doesn't have a lot of time where it gets boring or nothing's happening. It's very simplistic, but it's very effective. The black and white style to it, I think, really adds to the, some people say, nightmarish quality, dreamlike quality of the movie, and I do agree to that. It does have very much a dream, lucid dream type of feel to it. I'd imagine that being high while watching this movie wouldn't be too fun. Because, like, well, it's very, out there and weird. It's like, yeah, well, you might not want to do acid while you're watching this movie. I think that'd be a terrible idea. But yeah, it's really out there. You're seeing like sperm cells drop into puddles, and sperm. A lot of these giant sperm cells, but sperm cells dropping on the stage with this chick with these chubby cheeks, and she's like stepping on them, and she's dancing on this really, broken down stage. There's just scenes of Henry in his room with this heater that's really loud. It sounds like somebody left a teapot on the stove. It's like, kind of sounds like that. There's always background noise. There's never really a moment in this movie where it's quiet, where your brain is just left to just kind of, focusing on the acting or whatever. There's just always background noise. There's always something going on in the background, and it's just like it's constantly keeping you engaged. And yeah, I mean, Eraserhead is an absolute classic film. I think the way that the acting is done is very, very well done. There's not a bad performance in this movie. It's just really uncomfortable. There are certain scenes that are hard to watch. This mutated baby creature, which ends up being Henry's kid, it's like mutated, and he's trying to take the wrapping off, ends up like opening his baby up, like the insides are just out, and it's bleeding. It's a really gross scene, and it's very disturbing because you don't expect that to happen. It's a very shocking, disturbing scene, and the ending is so bizarre because basically it's Henry's head falling off and them making eraser heads from his head. And that's the end of the movie. And so it's really like, I guess you could say it's also him meeting up with the person with the chubby cheeks and hugging her, and it ending with the bright light flashing, which you could say is maybe Henry giving up his anxiety, giving up his fear in order to be a normal person. there's a lot of things you could say about that. There's a lot of things that you could say from the ending and what you get from the ending. I think Eraserhead's a phenomenal movie. It's a movie that should be experienced by everyone. I rewatch it constantly. I've seen it probably 4 or 5 times now. It's one of my favorites, and it's good to just turn the lights off on a nice, silent, quiet night. Just turn the lights off and chill out. Turn the speakers up and pick up your Criterion edition of Eraserhead and just float away. Get sucked into the universe, man. It's a really immersive film. So yeah, Eraserhead is like one of my favorite movies. Rewatching that was fun, and I picked this up as well along with Eraserhead. So I was like, you know what? I just watched Eraserhead, phenomenal movie. Why not go in and watch The Elephant Man? And I did right after Eraserhead. And that's going to be the next review. We're going to be talking about The Elephant Man. Now, like I said, The Elephant Man came out in 1980, gets us 8.2 on IMDb, and I know that Eraserhead critically did pretty well, but I'm not really sure how it did financially. But this one, I think, did well in both departments. I think it made a decent amount of money, and it was a big hit with the critics. Yeah, it cost $5 million, wow, and it made $26 million back, so it's a pretty big hit. Yeah, The Elephant Man was the follow-up film. I believe it was the follow-up film to Eraserhead. Pretty sure it was. But this is a movie that he made sometime after Eraserhead, and of course this movie would go on to be one of the biggest films out there. Before I seen this movie, there definitely was a lot more spoiled for this movie. I obviously heard about this movie a lot more than Eraserhead. And of course the subway scene. Why are you treating me like this? I am not an animal. I am a human being. I don't know, just you see that scene, it's a classic scene, and it's everywhere. It's been quoted everywhere. I remember just the clip popping up on YouTube so many times. So this one I was definitely a lot more familiar with than Eraserhead. I also seen a video talking about the real case of the character from this film. I'm trying to see here what his name was. John Merrick, of course, played by John Hurt. You got Anthony Hopkins. There we go. Not Hodkins. Hopkins. So you also have a great cast in this movie. Wow, there's a lot of good people in this cast. But John Hurt playing John Merrick, I did, watch videos talking about the real life person as well. And this is a tragic story that is told so well. And even though it is tragic, there are also very beautiful moments in this movie. And it's so weird because Eraserhead is a dark movie. And this one goes back to the black and white look. As well as just an energy and a vibe to it that can just feel really, really dark. And though it does have a lot of tragic moments, dark moments, it also has a lot of light moments. And this also is, after watching it, I can definitely say is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's excellent. Everything. It's such a big step up to Eraserhead. I really don't know which one I like more. They honestly are just up there as both two quality films for two different reasons. And the story is just the life story of John Merrick, this guy who was born with a horrible, horrible deformity where most of his body is covered in these tumors, and he can't really walk straight, and he's being used as a sideshow attraction. There's a legend that his mom was scared while she was pregnant with him by an elephant, and that's why he looks the way he is. And when you first see this character, John Merrick, I mean, it is a very intimidating character. He's a very creepy character. With the sack mask, which, of course, this is before Friday the 13th Part 2, which also had deformed man under a mask, a sack mask. So it's a bit interesting to see that. But just the whole outfit he has and the heavy breathing, he's not really talking. Definitely an intimidating character at first, but becomes such a wonderful character, such a likable character. And basically, he's being used as a sideshow attraction until a doctor brings him into the hospital and essentially saves his life. And they make the hospital his home. He stays there, I believe, in either the upper floor. I think it's the upper floor he stays. And while he's there, he learns that not everyone is, afraid of him. And eventually people want to interview him, and he becomes famous, and his life begins to turn around a little bit more. He does with some people coming into his room, and they get paid to bring people there to see him. And he's getting tired of being just used for money, basically. It's an excellent movie. I remember there are times in this movie that I almost cried. It's a very emotional performance. John Hurt from Alien and a lot of other movies. Harry Potter, great actor. I think unfortunately he passed away, which rest in peace to John Hurt. I mean, legendary actor. And the way he played this character under all of the makeup, I mean, he did an absolutely excellent job in this movie. Anthony Hopkins is a great lead. It was so weird seeing him very, very young and playing a very different character for him. And at first, you really don't like this character because he does exploit John Merrick. He shows him off to all these people in the medical field just to get this thing written, this article written, and him to get a bit of fame and money. But as the movie goes along, he becomes good friends with John Merrick, and he begins to become a better person to the point to where he finds out that there are people utilizing this guy, bringing people up to his room to make money. Oh, look at this guy, he's crazy looking. Look at this dude. And they like torture him. They're like trashing his room and making him drink alcohol. These really horrible people. And I like how Anthony Hopkins loses his shit and just is like, if you think I'm messing around anymore, I don't care. He's got this freaking thing in his hand. He's getting ready to hit this guy up in the head. It's a very, very well done scene. By the end of the movie, Anthony Hopkins' character becomes very, very likable. In the scene where he's talking to Anthony Hopkins' wife, and they're just, it's him, Anthony Hopkins, and Anthony Hopkins' wife, and it's that scene where he's talking to them about his mother and how she'd be ashamed of him, and just, man, excellent scene. I almost cried during that, and even the actress starts crying, which I don't know if that was a part of the script or not, or if it was just on, just kind of happened, but it's a deep hitting scene. It's a powerful, powerful scene. And it's very, very effective. So I thought that was done very, very well. Yeah, I mean, everything is nailed. I love the music. I love the cinematography. The direction by David Lynch is wonderful in this movie. The cast is awesome. The acting is great. The makeup effects on the Elephant Man himself is very just such a good accomplishment for practical effects and makeup. Very, very well done in this movie. Making it look like, I think it's the early 1900s, but just everything from the costume design to the way everything looks, cobblestone roads and just, hearses everywhere. Really made it look, not really hearses, was it hearses or stagecoaches, whatever, just old-timey cars and wagons and stuff. Making it look a lot like the olden days of the early 1900s. It's just nailed very, very well. It's an excellent movie. It's a perfect film. If you haven't seen The Elephant Man, go watch it. It's a classic for a reason. This and Eraserhead are two of my favorite movies, or some of my favorite movies of all time. But yeah, if I were to rate both movies, I'd give them both 5 out of 5. Easily. They're both dark, but Elephant Man has a bit more of a lighter side to it. And you could say the ending is tragic, but you could also say the ending is not tragic, because the last thing that he sort of sees, I think, is the face of his mother as he's, passing on. Because then the movie, you realize he can't lay down. And he's always talking about how he wants to just be able to lay down and sleep like a normal person. But he can't because he would die. And he finally gets a chance to lay down and sleep like a normal person. But yeah, it's a very excellent duo of films. If you haven't seen these movies, definitely check them out. Particularly these editions, because these editions are very, very well made. But yeah, 5 out of 5 each. Excellent movies. I gotta see more David Lynch stuff. But yeah, if you've seen this duo of films, comment down below your guys' thoughts on them. I will also be leaving a link to my Letterboxd and my Instagram in the description below. So if you guys want to follow me on there and see what I'm up to on those, you guys can. Also, I know the uploads have been kind of sparse lately. I have began watching and shooting reviews for October, so you'll be seeing a lot of stuff in October that's filmed now. So I'm getting the Wes Craven Marathon ready for October, so if I do upload a little bit less, that's why, because I'll be shooting like at least 2 reviews for those, and then I might shoot one more review for this, which this is the 3rd review this is the 2nd review I've done tonight. But as far as me watching and reviewing movies, what I'm going to do is watch like 2 Wes Craven movies, then a regular movie, and, kind of carry it on from there. Point is, the videos will be kind of spaced out. So if you guys are wondering why that's happening, I'm very, very busy shooting stuff for October. But anyways, y'all, thank you guys so much for watching. Take care. The Explorer Force out. And I will see you guys in the next review. Peace out, guys.